Welcome to episode 7 of Holy Tea Time. I'm Gabrielle Fox, and our first segment is getting into our devotional, and then we're going to do something a little bit new today and talk about memorizing scripture. It's something that some people find very, very easy to do, and others do not. I am actually one of those people that has a hard time memorizing it word for word or memorizing exactly. I can remember the premise and the basic idea of a scripture, but I do have a hard time remembering it word for word. So I think that every week, maybe on Monday, we can pick a scripture and memorize it. So let's get into the devotional for the day, October 27th. All your waves and breakers have swept over me. Psalm 42:7. They are his waves, whether they break over us, hiding his face in smothering spray and foam, or smooth and sparkling, spread a path before us, and to our haven bear us safely home. They are his waves, whether for our sure comfort he walks across them, stilling all our fear, or to our cry there comes no aid nor answer, and in the lonely silence none is near. They are his waves, whether we are hard striving, through tempest-driven waves that never cease, while deep to deep with turmoil loud is calling. Or at his word they hush themselves in peace. They are his waves, whether he separates them, making us walk dry ground where seas had flowed, or lets tumultuous breakers surge about us, rushing unchecked across our only road. They are his waves, and he directs us through them, so he has promised, so his love will do. Keeping and leading, guiding and upholding, to his sure harbor he will bring us through. I think so in this devotional, sometimes there are poems, sometimes there are parables, sometimes, it's a compilation. But what I take from that is the trials that we go through, whether things are going really smoothly in our life or whether things are really tumultuous and stressful and we're going through trials, it's all God's will. Meaning, if he sees weakness in us, if he sees sin in us, if he sees, things that need to be changed in us, then one of the surest way to do that is to put us through trials and to put us through, take us through rough water so that we can become stronger, so that we can learn wisdom, so that we can correct maybe self-destructive behavior. And I think that people forget when you're going through something really terrible, it's not the time to say, oh, well, God doesn't exist, or God hates me, or, I'm being punished for something. Sometimes it's to forge you into the stronger, better version of yourself and to correct the path that you're on. So, let's continue. Stand firmly in the place where your dear Lord has put you and do your best there. God sends us trials or tests and places life before us as a face-to-face opponent. It is through the pounding of a serious conflict that he expects us to grow strong. Just kind of mention that. The tree planted where the fierce winds twist its branches and bend its trunk, often nearly to the point of breaking, is commonly more firmly rooted than a tree growing in a secluded valley where storms never bring any stress or strain. True. The same is true of human life. The strongest and greatest character is grown through hardship. I agree. I said this on I think a couple episodes ago that the best people I know, the strongest people I know, the most resilient people I know, they are people that have been through trials. They are people that have come up out of the mud, so to speak, and that have been through real suffering and real trials, and they are now better for it, and they are stronger for it, and they're the kind of people that I want to be around, because they're not, they don't wear rose-colored glasses. They're not entitled. They're not, delusioned about who they are and how the world is, and what type of strength is needed to navigate things, to navigate suffering, to navigate trials. So let's jump into segment 2, Rose Handbook, Bible of Maps, Timelines, Charts, Maps, and Timelines. So what I've been doing historically, and this show is going to evolve, by the way. This is, something that I came up with, and it's going to evolve. So we might do new things. Some days we might, skip around a little bit. I do think that it's important that we learn biblical history, but I don't want it to be boring, and I don't want to just read from the pages. I want to kind of pluck out the really important stuff and then get to the nitty-gritty and give you guys tools, because like I said last night, when you're talking to people who are skeptical of Christianity, and you're trying to explain to them and or rebut arguments that they may have, or criticisms that they may have, it's good to know where things come from. Where does the scripture come from? Has it been verified? What historical documents can back up what you're saying? Why should I listen to this book, the Bible? Where did it come from? Who wrote it? Has it been confirmed in ancient texts, or was it just this King James guy that just, had his team write this book? So anyway, I think biblical history is important, but I don't want it to be monotonous. So, yesterday we went through, what do the scrolls tell us about the Old Testament? The next section is, what do the scrolls reveal about Jewish history? And what do the scrolls reveal about early Christianity? I want to be very, very clear. Judaism and Christianity are two completely different things, because Judaism is based on the Old Covenant that over and over again was broken. Over and over again, the Israelites could not keep their part of that covenant. They could not keep the bargain, basically. And God sent his son, which he always intended to do, because he knew that the Israelites were going to fail over and over again, and they would go through trials, and they would learn. And good Lord, if you read the book of Kings, it is over and over and over again. They fail. I mean, they just fail miserably to hold their part of the Old Covenant. So God sends his son Jesus to take the old version of the Old Covenant, or the first covenant, whatever you want to call it, and Judaism that it was based on, and replace it with what I call, modern day calls it Christianity, and I think that that's fine. To me, it's new covenant. It's covenant theology. So it's what Jesus came to bring and to replace the old. Okay, so what does it say? What are the Dead Sea Scrolls, which were discovered in 1947, which confirm much of the Bible that was in existence then and now? The new King James, or the King James Version, and other modern versions of the Bible. One thing the scrolls demonstrate is that a number of Jewish groups who separated themselves from society by living in separatist communities flourished during what is called the Second Temple period. The Second Temple period is the period from 520 BC to AD 70. It is called the Second Temple because in 520 BC, the Jews were allowed to rebuild Solomon's temple, which had been destroyed by King Nebuchadnezzar. This Second Temple stood until it was destroyed by the Romans in AD 70. The separatist Jewish groups included the Pharisees, the Sadducees, and the Zealots, all of whom we read about in the Gospel stories, as well as the Essenes and the Sicarii. So as far as we know, none of these groups left behind documents concerning their sects. So SECT, their sects, or I would call it their unique flavors and groups. The exception would be the authors and collectors of the Dead Sea Scrolls. Some believe the Essenes produced and collected the scrolls. Whether or not the scrolls belong to the Essenes, the texts provide historians with original writings on the beliefs and practices of other sects of this period with which the Qumran Jews interacted. The discovery of the scrolls show us that the Second Temple Judaism, although similar to older biblical Judaism we read about in the Old Testament, was not identical to it. And this is another reason, let me pause. This is another reason why Jesus came, because the Old Covenant, with which we'll call it original Judaism was based on, had been changed by the Israelites and by the different sects or groups over the years, over history, and it wasn't pure anymore. It wasn't what God intended anymore. Okay. Neither was Second Temple Judaism identical to what is called Rabbinic Judaism, which began to emerge after the destruction of the Second Temple in AD 70. Rabbinic Judaism is a real diversion, in my opinion, and many other opinions. It was based on the Talmud, which is a very important book in Jewish culture or Judaism, modern day Judaism. Certain parts of it, certain parts of modern day Judaism, and it is a disturbing book. There's no other way for me to say it. It is a disturbing book. It is a bunch of rabbis who have obviously rejected Christ, arguing about what the Jewish law should be. And some of it is highly disturbing. Let me continue. As a result, the scrolls give us a snapshot of a moment of great disagreement and change in the Jewish practices and beliefs of that day. For example, in many of the writings, the Qumran Jews condemn what they viewed as ritual abuses of the priests of the day who ran the temple, the same group of Pharisees that Jesus often criticized. Below is the portion of the War Rule. The War Rule is a scroll that contains a prophecy that God would soon destroy these corrupt temple Jews, as well as a prophecy about the defeat of the Gentile powers oppressing Israel in an end-of-time battle. This is super interesting. I have never heard of this, the War Rule. Let me answer a quick question. This is the biblical history book that I found that we are going through every day. It's called Rowe's Handbook of Bible Charts, Maps, and Timelines. It is super cool, very illustrated. I love it. We are going through it together for the first time. So let me read this really quick, and then let's see. For some reason, my phone is not telling me what time it is. Let's see if I can pull it up, and then I'll see how much time I have to continue. The War Rule, scroll abbreviations. Then the ire shall be a time of salvation for the people of God, and a time of dominion for all men of his forces, and the eternal annihilation of all forces of Belial. There shall be great panic among the sons of Japheth. Assyria shall fall with no one to come to his aid, and the supremacy of the Kittim shall cease. That wickedness be overcome without a remnant. There shall be no survivors of all the sons of darkness. Then the sons of righteousness shall shine to all ends of the world, continuing to shine forth until the end of the appointed seasons of darkness. Interesting. That was in one of the Dead Sea Scrolls. As far as my knowledge goes, which, again, we're kind of going through this together, and I'm going through the New Testament right now. As far as I know, that is nowhere in the Bible. So this is, again, Rabbinic Judaism, and I guess prophecies that were not considered canon, that were not included in our modern Bible. Let's see. I think I'm going to pause there. One of the things that is very confusing for me as I've been going through trying to understand the Bible and trying to understand, Judaism, Christianity, the argument there is that there are texts that Christians and modern day churches don't use. They don't reference, and they don't talk about, that Jewish people do use, and they do discuss, and they are part of certain Jewish, religious practices. And like I said, just like there's different groups within Christianity, there's Baptists, there's Pentecost, there's Seventh-day Adventists, there's Presbyterian, there's different groups. Christianity is actually the most divided of groups, but it's not fully divided. It's just slightly different interpretations of Christianity. The Jewish faith also has differences. It's not, they just all agree and it's all one. There are some differences within that religion as well. And it's important to remember in our modern world that although that there's been this concerted effort to put us all under one umbrella using the term Judeo-Christian, we are not one right now. The only way that we can be one is when Jewish people choose Jesus. And there's a term that's used, and it's called Messianic Jew, but according to Scripture, there is no Jew or Gentile under Christ. So I just refer to it as, I want everybody, no matter what their beliefs are right now, I want everybody to be under the new covenant, because the new covenant is purely divine. It's pure. It's purely God. It's purely under Christ, and it is based on the two most important commandments that God ever gave us, which is to love your God first with all your heart and all your soul and all your mind, and to love your neighbor as yourself. I can't think of two better ways of going about life and of healing our world than those two things. So we'll leave it there for now. I would love for you guys to ask me questions if you have questions. As far as the scripture, the scripture that we're going to memorize for the week. So Mondays we're going to memorize a scripture for the week, because I'm not great at this, and I know other people aren't either. I can't be the only one with, a brain that has a hard time memorizing words. I can memorize numbers like you wouldn't believe, but words are harder. So we know that in all things, God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. This is Romans 8:28. So let me read it one more time. We know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. Romans 8:28. I'm going to post this scripture of the week so that we can all see it and memorize it. I will put it in the comments on the YouTube video, and I will also post it to my story here on Instagram if that is where you're watching. I'm going to wrap up. Thank you for joining. Thank you for watching the replay if you're watching the replay. And I will see you all tomorrow for the next episode of Holy Tea Time.